I raised my siblings after Dad died, sacrificed my dreams, worked 2 jobs, gave them everything. Then I found $400,000 in gold buried under our family home. I thought we'd finally share the blessing, a fresh start for all of us. But the second they saw it, their eyes changed. They called me selfish, said I owed them for living rent-free, showed up with shovels, and took it all. They laughed as they drove away with Dad's secret. They had no idea the quiet sister they underestimated was about to make them pay. This is my heartbreaking true story of betrayal, greed, and the cold, calculated revenge that destroyed their lives. You won't believe how it ends. Watch now before it's gone. My name's Amen, and I used to believe family was the one thing you could always count on, no matter what. It's a quiet street in central Ohio, Maple Lane, the kind of place where everybody knows your business and nobody locks their doors. Our house, 412 Maple, is the last one on the cul-de-sac. Faded white siding, blue shutters that need painting, and a backyard so big it felt like a park when we were kids. There's an ancient oak tree back there, roots thick as my thigh, branches stretching out like it's trying to hold the sky. Dad planted it the year I was born. He'd sit under it every evening after work, boots kicked off, beer in hand, staring at nothing. He never said much about the war, only that some treasures are safer underground. I thought he was talking about memories. Turns out he meant it literally. I was 22 when he dropped dead in that same backyard. Heart attack. One second he was raking leaves, the next he was on the ground, eyes wide open to a sky he wouldn't see again. Mom had already been gone 6 years, cancer, so overnight I became mom, dad, breadwinner, and jailer all at once. Lisa was 18, Sarah 15, Mark 10. I left nursing school halfway through my junior year, took every shift I could get, grocery store mornings, diner nights, and kept the house from falling apart. My dreams? Put them in a box on the top shelf and told myself I'd open it later. Later never came. 15 years went by like that. Blisters turned into calluses. My back started screaming before I hit 35. But the kids grew up. Lisa got married, had a little girl. Sarah moved to the city to chase her art. Mark was still figuring things out. And I stayed, because somebody had to. April 2024. The backyard fence finally surrendered. One more winter of ice and it leaned like a drunk. I decided to fix it myself. Cheaper that way. Saturday morning, sun barely up, coffee going cold on the porch steps. I'm digging post holes near the oak when the shovel hits something that isn't rock. Clang. My stomach flips. I get on my knees, dirt under my nails, heart suddenly pounding like I'm 16 again. 10 minutes later, I'm staring at a rusted military footlocker. The padlock crumbled to dust. I pry it open. Gold. Coins. Bars. Neat rows glinting like they've been waiting for sunlight their whole lives. My hands shake so hard I almost drop one. I count fast, Google the spot price on my cracked phone. $400,000, maybe more. Dad's voice echoes in my head. Some treasures are safer underground. Tears hit me all at once. Relief, shock, gratitude. This money could fix everything. My back, the roof, maybe even give me a life again. But more than that, it could help the kids. We could all breathe. That night, I cook like it's Christmas. Mom's spaghetti and meatballs, garlic bread, the good Parmesan I never buy. I text the group chat. Family dinner tomorrow. Important. Come hungry. They show up. Lisa in her designer coat, Sarah with paint in her hair, Mark smelling faintly of weed and fast food. We sit around the same scarred oak table we've had since we were kids. I can barely eat. My palms are sweating. Guys, I say, sliding my phone across the table, photos open. I found something in the backyard yesterday. Silence. Then gasps. Sarah's fork clatters. Mark's eyes go huge. Lisa snatches the phone. Is this real? She whispers. I nod. Tell them everything. The chest, the oak tree, the value. I'm smiling through tears because for the first time in forever, something good is happening to us. To all of us. Then the air changes. Lisa's manicured nails drum the table. You found it under the house. Dad's house. That's joint property, Amen. Sarah leans forward, eyes narrowed. You've been living here rent-free for 15 years, while we've been out scraping by. This feels fair. Mark shrugs, not meeting my eyes. We're family. Split it 4 ways. Or, 3 ways might be cleaner since you've already had the house. My chest caves in. The room tilts. 3 ways? I raised you. I gave up college, relationships, everything. Lisa cuts me off, voice ice cold. You chose that, Amen. Nobody asked you to play saint. Dad buried this for all of us, not the daughter who never left. Sarah smirks. Honestly, you've had the easiest ride, staying home while we adulted. The words hit like punches. My hands start shaking so badly I hide them under the table. These are the babies I rocked to sleep, the teenagers I drove to practice at 5 a.m., the young adults I co-signed loans for, and now I'm the villain for digging in my own backyard? They don't even finish dinner. They're already talking lawyers, appraisers, how fast they can cash in. Lisa pockets my phone for a second to send herself the photos. The front door slams behind them one by one. The house falls dead quiet except for the old clock ticking on the wall. I sit there in the flickering kitchen light, spaghetti congealing on my plate, garlic smell turning sour. My throat closes. Tears come hot and fast. After everything I sacrificed, this is what I am to them? A speed bump on their way to a payday? I truly thought that gold was Dad's last gift to keep us together. I had no idea it would be the match that burned every bridge we had. And I had zero clue how much it would cost them when I decided I wasn't going to let them take it, or me, without a fight. The days after that dinner felt like walking through wet cement, every step heavier than the last. I'd temporarily reburied the chest under a tarp in the shed, telling myself it was just until we could talk calmly. But calm never came. Instead, the group chat lit up like a fireworks show, except every explosion was aimed at me. Lisa started it the very next morning, a long voice note. Iman, we've been thinking, this needs to be handled properly. I've already called a lawyer friend. We should meet this week to get the gold appraised and divided legally. No hard feelings, but we can't just trust you to do the right thing. Trust me. The words echoed in my head while I stood in the kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand. My chest tightened so hard I had to sit down. Trust me? The sister who'd skipped her own graduation party to work a double shift so Sarah could go to art camp. The one who'd driven Mark to the ER at 2 a.m. when he broke his arm. The one who'd cried alone in the laundry room when Lisa announced her pregnancy because I was so happy for her, even though I knew I'd never have kids of my own. I typed back carefully. I'm happy to split it fairly, 4 ways, but can we talk in person first? Sarah's reply came with a laughing emoji. 4 ways? Cute. You've had the house for free forever. That's more than enough of a head start. Mark didn't say anything at all. His silence hurt the worst. I agreed to meet them at Brew and Bean, that trendy coffee shop downtown they all loved, the one where a latte costs what I used to make in an hour. I got there early, ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, black coffee, and waited at a corner table, hands wrapped around the warm mug like it could stop the shaking. They arrived together, like a united front. Lisa in her tailored coat, Sarah in an oversized sweater covered in dried paint, Mark trailing behind, scrolling on his phone. They sat across from me, and the air felt thick, awkward pauses stretching between us. I tried again. Look, I'm not trying to keep it all. I just want us to acknowledge. Lisa interrupted, stirring her caramel macchiato with a tiny spoon. Acknowledge what, Iman? That you stayed home while we went out and built actual lives? You chose to be the martyr. Nobody forced you. My throat went dry. I chose it because you were kids. Someone had to. Sarah leaned forward, bracelets clinking. And we're grateful, really. But gratitude doesn't mean you get the lion's share of Dad's estate. The house was one thing. You needed it to raise us, fine. But this gold was buried for all of us. And honestly, she lowered her voice, leaning in, if you fight us on this, it'll look really bad, like you're trying to steal from your own siblings. Steal from them. I stared at her, this woman I'd taught to drive, whose wedding dress I'd sewn the hem on when the alterations shop charged too much. My hands shook under the table. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked the stall, and pressed my forehead against the cold metal door. Tears came hot and silent, not loud sobs, just a steady stream I couldn't stop. How had we gotten here? When I came back, they'd already moved on to logistics. Lisa was making a list on her phone: appraiser, safe deposit box, lawyer consultation. Sarah suggested selling some coins immediately for liquidity. Mark nodded along. They left me with the bill. Driving home, the tears came again. I had to pull over on a side street because I couldn't see through them. My whole body shook. Anger, grief, disbelief crashing together. How could they rewrite history so easily, make me the villain for loving them too much? That night, alone in the house that suddenly felt too big and too empty, I sat on the kitchen floor with Dad's old photo album. Pictures of us as kids, me holding baby Mark, braiding Sarah's hair, Lisa's high school graduation, where I was in the background clapping harder than anyone. I traced their faces with my finger, whispering, "I did it for you." But the texts kept coming. "Lisa, can you dig it up tomorrow? We'll bring the appraiser." "Sarah, don't do anything stupid like moving it." "Mark, nothing." Each notification felt like a fresh cut. By the end of the week, resentment had rooted deep, black and twisting. I'd catch myself staring at the oak tree through the window, fists clenched so tight my nails left crescents in my palms. I still wanted to believe we could fix this, that they'd see reason, that blood really was thicker. But every message, every cold word, every assumption that I was the greedy one, it carved the wound deeper. And wounds like that don't heal on their own. They fester. They change you. If they thought I was just going to hand over everything I'd earned for 15 years of sacrifice, they were about to learn how wrong they were. But that realization, that shift from pain to something colder, harder, didn't come until they pushed me one step too far. And that step was coming sooner than any of us expected. I kept telling myself it wouldn't go that far, that they'd cool off, that blood would win in the end. I was wrong. It was a Thursday afternoon, gray skies, spitting cold rain. I was out in the backyard again, trying to finish the fence just to have something to do with my hands. Mud caked my boots, my hair plastered to my forehead, but the physical work felt good, like I could hammer out the hurt with every swing. Then I heard car doors slamming, multiple, loud voices. I turned around and there they were. Lisa leading the charge in her expensive raincoat, Sarah right behind with a shovel over her shoulder like some kind of warrior, Mark trailing with a duffel bag. Lisa's husband Greg brought up the rear carrying a metal detector he'd clearly bought that week. My stomach dropped. "What are you doing here?" I called, walking toward the gate. Lisa didn't even slow down. "We're done waiting, Eamon. You've had a week to be reasonable. We're getting the gold today." I planted myself in front of the gate, heart hammering. "This is private property. You can't just—" Sarah laughed, actually laughed. "Private property? It's Dad's house, and that gold is ours. All of ours." She pushed past me, shoulder checking me hard enough that I stumbled. Mark hesitated for half a second, eyes on the ground, then followed. I ran after them. "Stop, please, just wait, we can talk." Lisa spun around, rain dripping from her perfect hair. "Talk? You've been stalling, ignoring text, hiding it. We're not children anymore, Eamon. You don't get to control us." They headed straight for the oak tree, like they'd rehearsed it. Greg fired up the metal detector, waving it over the spot where I'd originally dug. Within minutes, Sarah's shovel hit the tarp. They whooped, actually cheered, like they'd won the lottery. I begged, voice cracking, "Please, that's not how this works. Let's get a lawyer together, fairly." Lisa looked at me with something close to pity. "You still don't get it. You're not the parent anymore. You're just the sister who never left the nest. And frankly," she smirked, "Dad probably buried it deep so you wouldn't blow it on bills and groceries like always." The words sliced clean through me. My knees went weak. Neighbors' curtains twitched, Mrs. Henderson across the street openly staring. Humiliation burned hot up my neck. They hauled the chest out of the hole together, grunting and laughing, mud splattering their designer clothes they didn't even care about anymore. Lisa popped it open right there in the rain, gold glinting dully under the gray sky. Sarah ran her fingers over the bars like she was touching silk. "Beautiful," she whispered. I stood frozen, rain soaking through my hoodie, watching the people I raised celebrate taking everything from me. Mark finally looked at me. "Sorry, sis," he mumbled, "but majority rules, right?" They loaded the chest into Lisa's SUV like it was groceries. Lisa paused at the driver door. "We'll get it appraised. You'll get a share, eventually. Be grateful we're not cutting you out completely." Then they drove off, tires spinning mud onto the grass Dad used to mow every Sunday. I don't know how long I stood there, rain mixing with tears I didn't even feel at first. My chest heaved so hard I thought I might throw up. Everything blurred, the oak tree, the hole in the ground, the fence I'd never finish. I stumbled inside, dripping on the hardwood, and collapsed on the kitchen floor. The same spot I used to sit with Mark when he had nightmares. The same floor I'd scrubbed on my hands and knees after Sarah's graduation party. My body shook with sobs that came from somewhere deeper than I knew existed. I felt small, disposable, erased. All the years flashed, sleepless nights studying with Lisa for exams, holding Sarah when her first boyfriend broke her heart, teaching Mark to drive in the church parking lot. I'd poured my entire life into them, and in one afternoon, under my own tree, they reduced me to nothing. I dragged myself to the bathroom, gripped the sink, and stared at my reflection. Eyes swollen, face streaked with mud and tears. I whispered to the broken woman looking back, "You let them do this. You let them walk all over you, again." Something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet, cold, final. The pain didn't go away. It changed. It turned into fuel. I dried my face with the sleeve of the hoodie I'd worn for 10 years because I couldn't afford new ones, walked to Dad's old desk, pulled out his will, my birth certificate, every receipt and bank statement I'd saved since he died. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They thought I was weak, the quiet one, the giver who never took. They had no idea what a woman looks like when she finally decides she's done giving. That night, I made a promise to myself and to Dad, wherever he was watching. They wanted the gold? Fine. But they were going to learn exactly what it costs to steal from the person who spent 15 years keeping you alive. And I was going to make sure the price was everything they had. If you're feeling that rage right now, the same fire I felt on that kitchen floor, you're going to love what comes next. The rain stopped sometime after midnight, but I didn't sleep. I sat at Dad's old roll-top desk until dawn, surrounded by 15 years of paper proof. Bank statements showing every mortgage payment in my name, canceled checks for Sarah's art classes, Mark's braces, Lisa's community college tuition, receipts for groceries, school supplies, the emergency root canal I paid for when Mark was 16. All of it stamped with my signature, my sacrifices in black and white. My hands were steady now. The tears had dried into something harder. I made 2 phone calls that week. The first was to a lawyer, a woman named Carla Reyes, whose name I'd found on a quiet corner of the internet. No flashy ads, just solid reviews from people who'd been screwed over by family. She listened without interrupting while I told her everything. When I finished, there was a long pause. "You have a very strong case," she said finally. "Found property on land titled to you, combined with your role as de facto guardian and executor of your father's estate. We can file a claim that will make their heads spin. But it'll get ugly." I didn't flinch. Let it. The second call was to an old friend from nursing school who'd become a therapist. I didn't unload everything, just said I was going through family stress and needed tools to stay calm. She taught me a breathing trick: 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out. I practiced it every time rage tried to take the wheel, because I couldn't let them see the rage. Not yet. Outwardly, I became the perfect defeated sister. I texted to group chat apologies, voice shaking on purpose in the voicemails I left. "I'm sorry I made this harder than it needed to be. You're right, I've been emotional. I just want us to be okay again." Lisa responded almost immediately. "Good, finally. We're getting it appraised next week. We'll send you a quarter after taxes. Be grateful." A quarter? After taxes? After everything? I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then I smiled, small, cold, and hit record on my phone before calling her back.
Lisa, thank you, I said, voice soft and broken. I've been thinking, maybe you're right. Maybe I did take more than my share by staying in the house so long. Whatever you think is fair, I'll accept. She couldn't hide the triumphs in her tone. That's mature of you, Eamon. We'll handle the details. You don't need to worry. I let her talk, let her brag about the jeweler they'd found, the private buyer interested in some of the coins, how they were already planning a family vacation to celebrate. Every word recorded, every admission saved. I did the same with Sarah and Mark individually. Coffee with Sarah, where she gloated about the new easels she'd ordered. Lunch with Mark, where he sheepishly admitted they'd already sold a few bars to cover appraisal costs. I nodded, eyes downcast, asking gentle questions that led them to say, out loud, exactly how they'd taken the chest without my permission. All of it documented, quietly, carefully. At night, when the house was silent, I worked. I scanned every document, built timelines, created a folder labeled evidence that grew heavier by the day. Carla guided me, Ohio law on found treasure, adverse possession, undue enrichment, tax implications of unreported income. I learned words I'd never needed before: constructive trust, conversion, civil theft. I started going to the gym at 5 a.m., the cheap one near the highway, not for vanity, for strength. My back still ached from years of waitressing trays and lifting kids, but the weights made me feel something new: control. Each rep a promise, each drop of sweat a reminder that I was rebuilding myself from the ground up. They noticed the change, but misinterpreted it. Sarah texted a thumbs up when I posted a rare gym selfie. Good for you, sis. Self-care. Lisa commented on my sudden quiet compliance. See, everything's better when you don't fight. They thought I was surrendering. They thought the old Eamon, the giver, the pushover, was back in control. They had no idea the old Eamon had died on that kitchen floor the day they dug up Dad's gold. In her place was someone new, someone patient, someone who smiled while she sharpened the knife. I watched their social media like a hawk. Lisa posting from a spa weekend, thanks to Dad's blessing. Sarah's new art studio reveal, captioned "Dreams Coming True." Mark's new gaming setup, top of the line with a winking emoji. Every photo, every brag fed the fire I kept carefully banked behind calm eyes and polite texts. Carla filed the first quiet motions, nothing public yet, just liens and holds that would freeze things when the time was right. I paid her retainer with the last of my savings. It hurt, but it felt like investing in justice. By the end of that month, the contrast was complete. On the outside, the compliant sister, sending heart emojis, asking about their kids, their plans. On the inside, a woman made of steel and strategy, counting days like ammunition. They underestimated me one last time. They thought tears meant weakness. They thought silence meant defeat. They were wrong. I wasn't broken anymore. I was reloaded, and the first shot was already chambered. If that fire I felt is burning in you right now, the kind that comes when someone finally pushes you too far, then you're going to love what happens next.
I didn't rush. That was the key. Rushing is what desperate people do, and I wasn't desperate anymore. I was deliberate. The first real move happened on a Tuesday morning in early May, 6 weeks after they took the chest. I woke up at 4:30 a.m., made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with Carla's latest email open on my laptop. She'd attached the finalized paperwork, a civil complaint for conversion, replavin, and constructive trust, legal words that basically meant, you stole my property, give it back, and pay for the damage. We weren't filing yet. This was the shadow play. Step 1 was quieter. Step 1 was seeds. I started with the IRS. I created an anonymous Gmail account, nothing traceable, no name, no photo. From a public library computer 20 miles away, I filled out their online tip form, report tax fraud. I attached scanned photos of the gold bars with visible serial numbers, taken from the pictures Lisa had so helpfully posted on her private Instagram story before she remembered to restrict me. I wrote a short, factual statement. 3 individuals in Ohio recently unearthed and sold portions of approximately $400,000 in gold coins and bars discovered on private property.
Income has not been reported. Sales conducted through private buyers and local jewelers. Attached images show items and partial faces of individuals involved. I hit send. No anger, no threats, just facts. The kind the IRS loves. Next came the state tax board. Same process, same photos. Then I moved to something more personal. I mailed 3 identical envelopes, plain white, no return address, from 3 different post offices. Inside each, a single printed photo of the open chest in the mud, time-stamped the day they dug it up. On the back, typed in plain font, "Dad would be proud of how you honored his memory." No signature. Just enough to plant doubt. Just enough to make them wonder who else might have seen. Lisa got hers first. She called me that evening, voice tight. "Did you send something weird in the mail?" I let confusion drip into my tone. "No? Why? What was it?" She described the photo. I gasped, perfectly timed. "Oh my God, someone was watching that day?" Silence on her end. Then, "Probably just a prank." But I heard the crack in her confidence. Sarah's envelope arrived 2 days later. She posted a vague story on Instagram, a black screen with white text, "Some people have too much time on their hands," then deleted it an hour later. Mark didn't post anything, but he showed up at my door on a Saturday, looking hungover and twitchy. "Sis, are you okay? Like, really okay?" I invited him in, made him tea like when he was little. He fidgeted. "We've been getting weird mail, and Lisa's freaking out about taxes or something." I widened my eyes. "Taxes? From the gold?" He nodded, glancing away. "Yeah, maybe someone reported it?" I touched his arm gently. "You guys didn't declare it yet." He shifted. "We were going to, after we finished selling." I just looked sad. "Be careful, Marky. The IRS doesn't mess around." He left looking smaller than when he arrived. Meanwhile, Carla filed a lis pendens, a quiet notice on the house title warning that ownership of any assets found on the property was under dispute. It wouldn't stop them from spending what they'd already cashed, but it would make banks nervous about any loans or refinancing they might try. The final seed that week was social. I joined a local Facebook group, Maple Lane Neighbors, under my real name, of course, posted a simple update. "Been a tough couple weeks, friends. Some family issues after finding something special in Dad's old backyard. Appreciate your prayers as we work through it. Grateful for this community." Within hours, comments poured in. Nosy, kind, Midwest nice. "Everything okay, Eamon? Anything we can do? Praying for you, hun." People started asking questions in private messages. I never named names. I just said, "It's complicated. Siblings disagreeing over an inheritance. I'm trying to do the right thing." Word spreads fast in a small town. By Sunday, Mrs. Henderson from across the street told me at the mailbox that she's seen those fancy cars digging the day it happened. She whispered, "Looked like they were robbing the place." I didn't confirm. I just thanked her for caring. That same weekend, Lisa's husband Greg got a call from his bank, routine audit on a large cash deposit he'd made. Nothing major yet, just questions. Sarah's private buyer for some of the coins suddenly went quiet, spooked by rumors of disputed ownership. Mark's credit card application for a new truck got denied, unusual activity flag. They didn't connect the dots, not yet, but I saw the first signs of pressure in the group chat. "Lisa, has anyone else been getting weird calls?" Sarah, "My buyer backed out, said something about provenance issues." Mark, "My bank asked about a deposit. Anyone else?" No one answered me when I asked, "Everything okay?" That was my hidden win, the first real one. They still thought they were in control. They still thought I was licking my wounds in the house they believed was their birthright. They had no idea every quiet action I'd taken was a tripwire, and the ground beneath them was starting to shift. I went to bed that night with the window open, spring air cool on my face. For the first time since the day they took the chest, I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just breathed. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, and felt something new. Power, not loud, not flashy, but real, and it was only getting started. If you're feeling that shift right now, the moment the victim stops begging and starts building, then you know exactly how good this felt. By the middle of June, the air in Ohio had turned thick and humid, the kind that makes your clothes stick to your skin the second you step outside.
But the real heat wasn't coming from the sun. It was coming from every direction my siblings turned. The first real crack appeared in Lisa. She called me on a Wednesday evening, voice clipped and too loud, like she was trying to sound casual and failing miserably. "Eamon, have you heard from the IRS or anyone official?" I was folding laundry on the kitchen table. Slow, deliberate folds, phone on speaker. "No," I said softly. "Why? Is everything okay?" A long pause. I could hear Greg in the background muttering something about those damn deposits. Lisa lowered her voice. "They sent us a letter, an audit notice, asking about large cash transactions last quarter." "Oh my God," I whispered, letting real concern bleed through, because part of me was still capable of it. "Do you think someone reported the gold?" Another pause, sharper this time. "Why would you say that?" "I don't know," I said quickly. "It's just, you guys did sell some of it, right? Maybe the buyer?" She cut me off. "We're handling it. Just, if anyone asks you questions, you don't know anything, okay?" I agreed. Meek, supportive. Inside, I felt the first real surge of satisfaction, like ice cracking under their feet. Sarah felt it next. She showed up at my door 2 days later, unannounced, paint-stained overalls and wild hair, eyes red like she hadn't slept. "Can I come in?" Of course, I let her. Made her chamomile tea, like when she used to have panic attacks before art school critiques. She sat at the table, twisting the mug in her hands. My main buyer, the one who was going to take half the coins, he ghosted me, said there's a title issue and he can't risk it. "Eamon, I already spent the deposit he gave me on the studio lease." Her voice cracked on the last word. I reached across and touched her hand. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." She looked up, searching my face. "You didn't say anything to anyone, did you, about how we got it?" I let my eyes widen. "Of course not. I've been trying to stay out of it, just like you asked." She nodded slowly, but the doubt was there, a seed sprouting. Mark crumbled fastest. He texted me at 2 a.m. one night. "Can't sleep. Everything's messed up. Can I come over?" He showed up looking like he'd been hit by a truck, hoodie up, eyes red-shot, and hands shaking as he clutched a Monster energy drink like a lifeline. We sat on the porch steps, crickets loud in the dark. "I got denied for the apartment I wanted," he said quietly. "Credit flag, because of unexplained deposits, and Lisa's freaking out about taxes, and Sarah's crying about her studio." He trailed off, staring at the oak tree. I keep thinking, what if Dad didn't want this? What if he hid it for a reason? I didn't answer right away, just let the silence sit. Then softly, "He hid it under my tree, Marky, in my yard." He flinched like I'd slapped him. The group chat became a war zone. Not outright fighting, more like passive-aggressive jabs and paranoia bubbling up. "Lisa, has anyone gotten strange mail lately? Photos?" Sarah, "Yeah, creepy as hell. Who would do that?" Mark, "Maybe we should have waited, done this legally." Lisa, "Don't start with regrets now. We did what we had to." Sarah, "Did we? Because it feels like everything's falling apart." Lisa, "Stop being dramatic. We just need to lay low until the audit blows over." They started accusing each other. Lisa thought Sarah had bragged too much online and drawn attention. Sarah thought Lisa's husband Greg had been flashy with the money. Mark thought someone on the street had seen them digging and reported it. Not one of them looked at me. The quiet one, the compliant one, the one sending supportive memes and thinking of you texts. I watched it all from the sidelines, calm on the outside, heart racing on the inside. Every new crack felt like vindication. Every panicked message a reminder of the day they laughed while loading Dad's gold into Lisa's USV. Carla called me one afternoon. "The IRS has officially opened inquiries on all three. Your anonymous tip was solid. Serial numbers matched what they've traced to recent sales, and the list pendants is scaring off any legitimate buyers they approach." She paused. "You holding up?" I looked out at the oak tree, strong and unmoving. Better than ever.
The stakes were climbing fast. Lisa's perfect Instagram life went dark. No more spa days or blessed captions. Sarah's art page filled with apologies about delayed commissions. Mark stopped posting altogether. They were starting to feel cornered, confused, angry. And the best part? They still didn't know who to blame. I did. Every night before bed, I opened the evidence folder on my laptop, watched it grow, felt the weight of it settle in my chest, not heavy anymore, powerful. The pressure was building, and I hadn't even turned the valve yet. If you're gripping your phone a little tighter right now, feeling that slow, delicious squeeze of justice closing in, good, because it's about to get so much tighter.
July hit like a furnace, but the real heat was closing in from all sides now. My siblings weren't just feeling pressure anymore, they were starting to suffocate. Carla called me on a Monday morning with the update I'd been waiting for. The court has approved expedited discovery. We're filing the full complaint this week. Your siblings will be served by Friday. And the IRS has escalated. Full audits for all three, plus Greg. They've requested bank records going back 2 years. I was in the backyard, watering Dad's tomato plants, the ones I'd started from seed the way he taught me. My hand didn't shake as I held the hose. Good, I said quietly. Let's do it. That same week, 3 more threads pulled tight. First, the social fallout. The Maple Lane Neighbors group had grown into something bigger. Someone, probably Mrs. Henderson, posted a vague but pointed question. Anyone else notice suspicious digging at the old Our Last Name place a couple months back? Heard there's family drama over money. Comments exploded. People remembered the SUVs, the shovels, the cheering. Someone shared a blurry phone video from their Ring camera, Lisa's license plate clear as day. By Wednesday, the post had 200 comments. By Thursday, it was shared to 2 larger local groups. Lisa's perfect life cracked publicly. Her boss at the marketing firm called her in for a chat about the online speculation. Nothing official, but the implication was clear. Drama reflects on the company. Sarah's art collective got wind of the stolen inheritance rumors. 2 upcoming gallery spots quietly rescinded their offers. Mark's part-time gig at the auto shop dried up. Boss didn't want liability around someone with tax troubles. They started lashing out in the group chat. Lisa, this is ridiculous. Who's spreading these lies? Sarah, it has to be someone on the street. They saw us that day. Mark, or someone who knew exactly when we were there. Lisa, don't even go there, Mark. Sarah, why not? She's been too quiet lately. Lisa, Iman wouldn't. She doesn't have it in her. I read that last message and felt something cold bloom in my chest. Not anger anymore, something cleaner. I didn't respond. I never did anymore. Instead, I sat on the porch that night with Dad's old photo album again, not crying this time, reflecting. I flipped to a picture from Mark's 10th birthday, the last one before Dad died. I'm in the background, holding the cake, smiling while everyone sings to him. I looked exhausted even then. I traced my younger face and whispered to the empty air, I gave you everything, and you took the one thing that was finally mine. The pain was still there, but it had shape now. Purpose. Friday came. 3 process servers, 3 doorbells. Lisa got hers at work, handed the envelope in front of colleagues. Sarah got hers mid-phone call with a potential new buyer. Mark got his while hungover on his couch, still in yesterday's clothes. The complaint was brutal in its simplicity. Conversion of property, civil theft, unjust enrichment, demand for return of all gold, proceeds, and punitive damages. My affidavits attached 15 years of bank statements, canceled checks, testimony from neighbors about who really raised the family after Dad died. Their phones blew up my phone that night. Lisa, 14 missed calls. Sarah, 8. Mark, 3. I let them all go to voicemail. Lisa's first message was ice. How could you do this to your own family?
Sarah's was tears. "You're destroying us. Please call me." Mark's was just breathing, shaky, panicked, then a whispered, "Sis, what did you do?" I listened to each one once, saved them, added them to the evidence folder. By Sunday, the local paper picked up the story. Not front page, just a short article in the community section. Siblings sue over buried treasure found in family backyard. My name mentioned as plaintiff, their names as defendants. Anonymous sources, read neighbors, quoted saying I'd been the one holding the family together for years. Lisa's marriage hit rough water. Greg furious about the audit hitting their joint accounts. Sarah's studio lease fell through. Landlord spooked by the lawsuit. Mark moved back in with a friend after his roommate kicked him out over the drama. They were surrounded. Legal system on one side, tax authorities on the other, social fallout on the third, and me, silent, composed, watching from the house they thought they'd left behind for good. I wasn't gloating, not yet, but I felt the payoff brewing, warm and inevitable in my chest. The trap had tightened to the point where they could feel the metal biting skin. And the best part? They finally started to suspect I wasn't the broken sister anymore. One last text came through late that night from Lisa. "We need to talk, please, before this goes any further." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back a single word: soon. Because the collapse wasn't just imminent, it was scheduled, and I was the one holding the calendar. If your heart is racing right now, if you can feel the noose pulling tighter with every word, then you know exactly how this felt.
August arrived with a storm front that knocked out power for half the county. Trees down, roads flooded. The perfect metaphor for what was happening to my siblings' lives. The lawsuit went public in a way none of us expected. It started with a local news station picking up the court filing. Siblings battle for $400,000 buried gold treasure in suburban backyard. They blurred our faces in the photos, but anyone who knew us recognized the house, the oak tree, Lisa's SUV. By noon, the story was on every Cleveland affiliate. By evening, it hit Reddit, r/am I the asshole, r/pro revenge, r/legal advice. Thousands of comments, most of them on my side. I didn't post it. I didn't need to. The internet did what it does best. Dug. Someone found Lisa's LinkedIn professional headshot next to comments calling her entitled. Someone screenshotted Sarah's old art posts bragging about her family windfall. Someone even pulled Mark's public gaming profile where he'd live-streamed unboxing his new setup, casually mentioning inheritance money came through. Their names were everywhere, their faces, their greed. Lisa's firm put her on unpaid administrative leave pending review of public allegations. The official line was to avoid distraction, but we all knew what it really meant. Sarah's remaining gallery contacts ghosted her completely. One sent a polite email citing reputational risk. Mark got fired from his new warehouse job after HR got anonymous tips about his tax audit. The group chat went nuclear. Lisa, "This is your fault, Iman. You leaked it to the press." Sarah, "How could you? We're your family." Mark, "Everyone at work knows. I can't even go to the gas station without stairs." Lisa, "Pick up the phone. We need to settle this now." I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I drove to the courthouse for the first preliminary hearing. Carla by my side, folder thick with evidence. They showed up together, Lisa in a severe black suit, Sarah in mismatched boho layers like she'd dressed in the dark, Mark in the same hoodie he'd worn to my porch weeks ago. They looked smaller, tired, haunted. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, reviewed the filings. She didn't hide her expression when she read my affidavits. The neighbors' statements about who paid the bills after Dad died, the photos of me at every graduation, every birthday, every hospital visit, the bank records showing 15 years of me keeping the lights on. Lisa's lawyer tried to argue equal inheritance rights. The judge raised an eyebrow.
Counsel, your clients removed property from the plaintiff's land without permission. We're past inheritance. We're in conversion territory. Lisa's face went white. Sarah started crying quietly. Mark just stared at the table. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited, microphones and cameras. Lisa tried to push past without comment. One reporter shouted, "Do you regret taking the gold from the sister who raised you?" She froze, turned. For 1 second, her mask slipped. Pure fury. Then she hurried to her car. The clip went viral by dinner time. Hashtag Gold Digger Siblings trended locally. Memes of Lisa's glare overlaid with shovels and dollar signs. I watched it all from the kitchen table, volume low. No smile, no celebration, just a deep, steady breath. Carla texted, "They're going to want to settle soon. Their case is crumbling." I replied, "Not yet." Because exposure wasn't just about public shame. It was about stripping away every layer they'd hidden behind: the perfect older sister, the struggling artist, the baby brother. Now the world saw what I'd lived with: entitlement dressed up as family loyalty. That night, Lisa called again. I finally answered. Her voice was raw. "I'm in. Please, meet us. Somewhere neutral. We'll give it back, whatever you want. Just make this stop." I let the silence stretch, long enough for her to hear her own desperation. Then I said, calm and clear, "I'll think about it." I hung up. I walked out to the backyard, stood under the oak tree where it all began. The air was cooling after the storm, crickets starting their chorus. I pressed my hand to the rough bark. "They see now, Dad. Not all of it, but enough." The anticipation was electric. The courtroom showdown was scheduled for next month. Everything I'd built, every quiet move, every piece of evidence was lined up and ready. Their image wasn't just cracked, it was shattered, and the final blow hadn't even landed yet. If you're leaning forward right now, heart pounding, waiting for the moment they finally face what they did, good.
The final court date was set for a crisp September morning. Clear skies, leaves just starting to turn. The kind of day Dad would have called perfect for working in the yard. I arrived early, dressed in the simple navy suit Carla had helped me pick out. Nothing flashy, just tailored, professional, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. I wanted the judge to see the woman who'd kept a family afloat for 15 years, not the broken sister they'd tried to paint me as. They were already there when I walked into the courtroom. Lisa, Sarah, and Mark sat on the defendant's side with their shared lawyer, a man who looked expensive but nervous. Lisa's suit was designer, but her face was drawn, dark circles under eyes that wouldn't meet mine. Sarah kept twisting a tissue in her hands, eyes red and puffy. Mark slouched in an ill-fitting button-down, staring at his shoes like he wanted the floor to swallow him. The courtroom was fuller than I expected, a few reporters in the back, Mrs. Henderson and 2 other neighbors who'd given affidavits, sitting quietly behind me. Carla squeezed my hand as we took our seats. The judge entered. We rose. We sat. Their lawyer went first. Polished but desperate. He argued shared family property, intent of the deceased, emotional distress on my clients. He painted me as bitter, vindictive, ungrateful for the freedom my siblings had given me by moving out. Carla's turn. She was calm, methodical, devastating. She laid out the timeline. Dad's death, my sacrifices, the day they took the chest. She entered exhibit after exhibit. Bank records, canceled checks, photos of me at every milestone while they built lives on my backbone. Neighbor testimonies read into the record. Amen was the parent after her father passed. She worked 2 jobs so those kids could have what they needed. Then the recordings, my defeated calls, where they bragged about selling the gold, admitted to taking it without permission, dismissed my role in their lives. Lisa's face went from pale to ashen. Sarah started sobbing quietly. Mark put his head in his hands. Carla's closing was simple.
This isn't about equal inheritance. This is about theft. My client discovered property on land titled solely to her, maintained by her for 15 years. The defendants removed it by force, sold portions without reporting income, and now face federal tax audits as a direct result of their actions. She has asked for nothing more than the return of what was taken, plus compensation for the emotional and financial harm inflicted by the very people she raised. The judge didn't deliberate long. When she spoke, her voice was steady, final. Based on the evidence presented, I find overwhelmingly in favor of the plaintiff, Amen last name. The gold and all proceeds from its sale are awarded to Miss Amen, along with punitive damages for civil theft and emotional distress, totaling 75% of the original estimated value, plus legal fees. The remaining 25% will be divided equally among the defendants, minus any IRS liens or penalties, which are their responsibility alone. The gavel came down. Lisa gasped, a sharp, involuntary sound. Sarah's sobs turned audible. Mark just sat frozen. Their lawyers started objecting, but the judge shut him down. Counsel, your client's actions were egregious. This court has no sympathy for entitlement disguised as family rights. Outside the courthouse, the reporters swarmed. I gave a short statement, prepared with Carla. I never wanted this to go to court. I offered to share fairly from the beginning, but when my siblings chose greed over gratitude, I had no choice but to protect what was rightfully mine, and what my father clearly intended for the person who stayed to care for his home and his children. I hope this brings closure for all of us. The cameras flashed. Behind me, I heard Lisa's voice crack as she pushed through the crowd. She planned this. She destroyed us. I didn't turn around. Later that afternoon, the remaining gold, whatever they hadn't already sold, was returned to me under sheriff supervision. The chest sat on my kitchen table again, right where it belonged. I ran my fingers over the bars, tears coming, not from pain this time, from release. The money hit my account in stages over the next weeks, after taxes, after liens on their shares for the IRS penalties. I paid off the house, fixed the roof, set up a small scholarship in Dad's name for kids who lost parents young, enrolled in night classes to finally finish my nursing degree. They each got what was left of their quarter, barely enough to cover lawyers and back taxes. Lisa and Greg separated. She moved into a small apartment. Sarah gave up the city studio, came home to live with a friend, painting in a garage. Mark checked into a rehab program, something he'd needed for years but couldn't afford until the wake-up call. The power dynamic wasn't just reversed, it was obliterated. They had underestimated the woman who'd spent 15 years putting them first. They thought tears meant weakness. They thought silence meant surrender. They were wrong. And in that courtroom, when the gavel fell and their world crumbled around them, I finally felt the full weight lift from my chest. Not vengeance, justice. Clean, complete, earned. I stood under the oak tree that night, chest against my palm, and whispered to the stars, I did it, Dad. I protected what you left me, and I finally protected myself. The release was overwhelming, like breathing after years underwater. This wasn't just about the gold anymore. It was about being seen, valued, respected. And for the first time in 15 years, I was. If you're feeling that rush right now, that deep, satisfying exhale when justice finally lands, you know exactly how this moment felt.
It's been over a year now since the gavel fell. January 2026. Snow blankets the backyard, the old oak standing strong under a coat of white. The house is quiet, but it's a peaceful quiet, not the empty kind that used to swallow me whole. The consequences settled exactly where they needed to. Lisa's marriage didn't survive the fallout. Greg filed for divorce 6 months after the ruling, citing financial dishonesty. She moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town, took a lower-paying job at a smaller firm. Last I heard, she'd stopped posting on social media altogether. The woman who once curated a perfect life now keeps her head down at the grocery store, avoiding eye contact with anyone from Maple Lane. Sarah gave up the dream of the city studio. She moved back to Ohio, rents a room from an old high school friend, and paints in a corner of their basement. Her work has changed, darker, rawer. Some of it's actually beautiful in a way it wasn't before. She sells pieces at local markets now, not galleries. I bought one anonymously, a stormy landscape with a single buried light breaking through. It hangs in my hallway. Mark hit bottom hardest, but maybe that's what saved him. The tax debt and shame pushed him into a 30-day rehab program last spring. He's been sober 9 months now, works at an auto shop, lives in a sober house, shows up to meetings. He sent me a letter at Christmas, handwritten, shaky penmanship. I'm sorry, Eamon, for everything. You deserved better from all of us. I read it twice, cried once, haven't written back yet. Maybe someday. As for me, I finished what I started all those years ago. I graduated nursing school last May, walked across the stage at 39, cap and gown, the loudest cheers coming from Mrs. Henderson and a few old neighbors in the audience. I work part-time at the Children's Hospital now, the night shift mostly. I'm good at it. Turns out all those years of bandaging scraped knees and calming nightmares gave me a head start. The gold money sits mostly untouched in a trust. I paid off the house, replaced the roof, fixed the fence properly this time. Started a small scholarship in Dad's name, $5,000 a year to a local kid who lost a parent and is trying to hold their family together. The rest is for me, when I'm ready. Maybe travel, maybe just peace. I still sit under the oak sometimes, not as often as Dad did, but enough. I talk to him, tell him about my patients, the scholarship recipients, the way the tomatoes came in strong last summer. I told him about the day in court too, how it didn't feel like revenge in the end. It felt like reclamation. I learned something through all of this, something brutal and beautiful. Family isn't just blood, it's choice. Every day you choose who you show up for, who you sacrifice for, who you forgive, who you fight for. I chose them for 15 years. They chose greed over me in a heartbeat. And when I finally chose myself, the world didn't end. It opened. I'm not bitter anymore. Not even close. I'm proud. Of the girl who kept the lights on. Of the woman who stood up when she'd been pushed down one too many times. Of the nurse who now helps other people hold their families together. Karma isn't always lightning. Sometimes it's slow, like roots cracking concrete. Sometimes it's quiet, like snow covering old wounds. But it comes. And self-worth, it isn't given. It isn't inherited. It isn't buried in someone else's secret. You dig it up yourself, one choice at a time. So if you're watching this, feeling unseen, underestimated, taken for granted, know this. The power to change your story isn't in someone else's apology. It's in the moment you decide you've given enough. I did, and I've never felt freer. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. If my story helped even one person stand taller today, then every tear, every sleepless night, every swing of that shovel was worth it. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve it. And remember, some treasures aren't meant to be shared with people who never learned your value. They're meant to remind you of it. This is Eamon, signing off for good.